Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at lesson 3.2, which is about stocks and bonds. There's a lot of interesting stuff here that actually applies to your life because you're probably going to own stocks or bonds either directly or indirectly at some point. So hopefully if you know what you're doing here with stocks and bonds, you can actually end up with a lot more money in the long run than you would have had otherwise. So let's jump into this and see what we've got. And I got to do this. We got to talk about bonds, and you'll forget about them if I just show you bonds, so hopefully you'll remember that. But bonds are, other than British super spies, they're legal promises to repay money that are owned or loaned by a business or government agency with interest on a specified date or date. So what happens is we will basically, we being the school in this case, might borrow money from you and give you a piece of paper called a bond, and we'll promise that in a certain period of time, we will pay you that base rate back plus interest. It's a little bit less risky than stocks, usually because the entities that issue them are definitely above board. I mean, there's a really good chance that, the school is going to be around in a decade or two or three or more. Sometimes stocks are kind of risky because some companies have just started up and they might disappear in a little bit of time. So usually if you want a safe investment, bonds are the route to go, although you may not get quite as wealthy on them. There are a couple things you ought to know about bonds. First of all, you should know what the face value is. In other words, how much money have you actually spent on that thing? Okay, what have you put up in the first place? What's the principal that's going to be paid back over time? So if I put in $50 for a $50 bond, the face value is $50, okay? It's pretty easy. Maturity is something else you need to know. You need to know how long the bond is going to be issued for, okay? If it's a 20-year bond and you go in 10 years and try to cash it out, you're not going to get the full value of it. In fact, it'll be significantly less than if you would have done it later. When I was in middle school, I won the 8th grade social studies award and I got a $20 savings bond. And so I took it, and I held on to it, and I held on to it for about, I don't know how many years it would have been, but 2 years shy of whatever the maturity date was. And I took it to the bank because I was I was out of school by then, out of college, and I said, I want my money back. Or I want my money not back, because it wasn't my money in the first place. So they went and they said, all right, well, if we give you the money right now, it's only going to be worth like $24. But if you come back when it's mature, we would give you, I think it was like $35. And I was like, that's not a huge difference, but it seems wise to just wait 2 more years. I waited this long. So I held on to it because it wasn't mature yet. And then, of course, I went off and I lost the bond. And to this day, I don't know where it is. That's kind of an important thing when you have a bond. You also need to know what the coupon rate is. What's the interest rate for the bond? And sometimes it might be a fixed interest rate. Sometimes it might vary. Like the bond I got, most of the interest was paid out in the last 2 years. So that was kind of significant. But you need to know what those things are when you get a bond. Stock is a little bit different from bonds because when you buy stock, it's not a loan that you're giving a company. Stock is actually a percentage of ownership in a company. So if you own stock, we call you a shareholder. You own shares of that company, and you're actually one of the owners. Now, you can't just walk into Apple and say, I own a share of your stock, make an iPod for me or an iPhone, I guess, because you're only one out of many, 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 many people who own stock. They only need to listen to what the majority of their shareholders want. But you do own some stock, and so you are technically an owner. Sometimes stocks will pay you dividends. What that is that they'll get profits that are figured quarterly, sometimes annually, and they'll say, all right, we're going to give all of our shareholders a certain percentage of the value of their stock in cash. Sometimes it might be 3%. So, if you own one share of stock that's $100, and they pay a 3% dividend, then maybe once a quarter, they'll pay you $3, which would be pretty good. But not every stock does that. Some of them are just, you hold them just for the privilege of being an owner, and you're hoping that maybe down the road you can actually sell that stock. So when you look at stock quotes, you're trying to figure out, okay, what's a stock actually worth? There are a number of things, and you've probably seen something like this before. And a stock quote, which is what you see over here on the left, you're getting a lot of information. This is a report on what's the value of a stock. So we're going to talk about stock. In fact, over the next few days in class, we're going to be working with the stock market game. We're going to recreate a simulation or create a simulation of you buying it and selling it. So first of all, who can own stock? Well, anyone who pays for it can. You could own stock today, although if you're under 18, that would be in a custodial account you'd have to share with your parents. But be aware, you can lose a lot of money playing with the stock market if you don't know what you're doing. The first time I invested in the stock market, I was probably, 20. And I lost pretty much, actually, I think everything I invested in it. So you got to be really careful. It was only $100, so don't freak out, but it's gone. Like I didn't get any of that back. So a couple things about stock that you should know. Like I was saying, there is a certain amount of risk. If a company goes totally bankrupt, which is what happened to me, you could lose the entire value of that stock. So why would anybody buy stock if that's the case? Well, you also stand to gain a decent amount of money. If you had invested in Amazon when it was first a startup company, you could have maybe bought a share for $15, $20. Today, a share is trading for over $1,000. So if you bought 10 shares of Amazon at $10 each, you'd have a $100 investment and you'd have, a $10,000 reward at this point. So there's a lot of reason to maybe invest in it, but there's also some reason you might not want to. It's important when you invest in stock to diversify what you're doing, okay? You don't just want to buy all one type of company. Let's say that, you decide you want to invest in a bunch of different gun maker and military manufacturers. So you do that, and then the United States announces that we're going to go the route of Switzerland, and we are going to be entirely peaceful from this point on. You can imagine that those companies that looked really good a little while ago are suddenly not looking quite as tempting. So it's important to diversify. Sure, you can buy some, tank stock if you want to, but maybe also get Disney, maybe get some clothing companies, maybe invest in some automobile industries. That's a really wise way to diversify. There's Disney, and don't need to worry about that if you're not in class. So don't worry about the activity it alludes to there either. There are two different types of market in the stock market you should be aware of. This doesn't make a huge difference in what you're doing, but it is something you should be clear on. There are two markets. The first one is the primary market. So I mentioned a little while ago that if you'd invested in Amazon back in the day when it was first starting up, you'd make a lot of money. Well, if you had actually contacted Jeff Bezos himself, or he contacted you to sell you stock, and he offered to sell it to you direct from Amazon, then that would be considered the primary market. That's when you first are selling brand new stock, or technically bonds also. That's the primary market. This shows you here, this is an interesting chart. If you had invested $100,000 in Amazon in 1990, my reading is bad. If you'd invested $1,000 in Amazon back in 1997, as of 2013, that would be worth $239,000. And it's only gone up since then. In fact, it's gone up kind of significantly. A number of these other companies, the same. eBay, $1,000 in 1998. Today it would be $68,000. You can see the other ones. Now, this may not look extremely impressive, but Facebook only went public in 2012, and it had already gone up $269, which is it's a decent return on your investment. So you say, okay, that makes sense. What other kind of market is there? Well, there's, we'll get there, sorry. The primary issuers on the primary market are the government, which will offer a lot of bonds. In fact, the government's primary debt is to its own citizens, and a lot of that debt is in the form of bonds. So the government's always selling bonds. But you'll also get these things you've probably heard of called IPOs. IPOs are the initial public offering. So on that chart, the newest company that was publicly traded was Facebook. Facebook had an IPO, that's an initial public offering, and what that means is that that's the first time they're going to offer stock in their company to the public. Now, not every company has stock. Not every company can be bought and sold. Some companies are owned by private individuals. Just think about it. If I go out and I start a pizza place tomorrow, because I'm wealthy anyway, I don't need other investors, so I can just take that money and I'm going to be fine. I don't need to sell stock to you or anybody else. But if I decide I do want the public involved, then I can sell a certain amount of stock. Now, if I want to retain control over the company, I'm going to keep at least 51% of it so that nobody else can come in and tell me what to do. Secondary markets are actually what are the more common type of markets. Okay, secondary market would be when, let's say, I buy stock in Apple and I decide that I want to sell it. So I'm selling it to somebody else. That would be sold on a secondary market. Okay, the definition here: the market in which previously issued financial instruments like stocks or bonds are bought and sold. And at the bottom, you see a picture of the New York Stock Exchange. The New York Stock Exchange is the single largest secondary market in the world, at least for stocks. I gotta check that. It's the single largest stock trading market in the world, and it's a secondary market. Okay, these account for most of the stock trading in the United States. So just to totally clarify here, I want to give you an analogy. Okay, so on the left you've got primary markets like Walmart, and actually they've taken the space out, so I probably got to take the space out of my presentation. But on the left, let's say I go and I want to buy a new TV. So I go to Walmart and I buy a TV. And after a little while, I decide I don't like it anymore, so I sell it in a yard sale. All right. Well, the primary market is when I first bought the TV. I went to a store and they first issued it to the public. That's me at Walmart. But when I turn around and I decide I'm going to sell it to somebody else, whether it be at a yard sale or a consignment sale or what have you, that would be considered a secondary market. Okay, I think that makes sense. So hopefully you can tell the difference. There is an activity that we're not going to be doing right now because of the fact that you're here. So like I said, the New York Stock Exchange is the largest stock exchange in the world. The listed companies in it are worth about $20 trillion. That's just a huge amount of money. Usually these businesses are going to be older, more established businesses, things that have been around for a long time, are going to be more commonly traded in the New York Stock Exchange. There are other exchanges also. You might hear the NASDAQ, which does a lot of newer upstart companies, tech companies, that kind of thing. There's the London Exchange. There's Tokyo Exchange. There are a number around the world, and you can buy and sell in any of them electronically. You're not only limited to the New York Stock Exchange. Now, you've probably heard of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's important to understand what that means. The Dow is one measure of how the stock market's doing. So what we do is we take 30 significant stocks that are traded on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, and we just look at, from day to day, what's the value of those stocks. If those 30 stocks, which are very diverse, are increasing, the value of most stocks in the United States is probably going up. That's the trend. If it's going down, that's probably the trend, and that might cause people to sell before their stock gets impacted. Now, I want to show you this. This is the Dow Jones Industrial Average from roughly 1900 until the present era. And you can see that the general trend has been directly upward. Now, there are a couple dips in there for sure, but if you'd invested even at the peak of the 1920s, well, 1929, right before the stock market crashed, today your money would be significantly grown, and you'd be doing great. So a lot of times the advice that is given to young people is buy stock, hang on to it, and just hold it as long as you can. Don't expect to sell it tomorrow and pay off college. But if you can keep it for 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to be doing really well at the end. Because look, 30 years ago, here's where we were. That's almost 40 years ago. I'm getting older. Here's where we were. Today, we're significantly better than that. So the general trend is upward. I may talk to you about index funds in class. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to keep moving. There is a stock market game. If you haven't already logged into it, go ahead and do so through my website. And if you have any questions, holler at me. Thanks for bearing with me as I did it this way. It's kind of annoying. Email me if you have questions.